Hey Shark Tank fans, welcome back to the Chum, the Upstart Business Journal's weekly show that's all about Shark Tank. I'm Jennings Moss, I'll be your host. Let's get right to it, episode 6 of season 6 of The Tank. 4 companies that came in on Friday night. I have to be honest, I wouldn't have put my money into any of them if I had been in the tank. A couple of entrepreneurs that I liked and that I was impressed by, but in the end, none of the companies really won me over. Let me start off then with the story of the night that had to go to Kurt Campbell in my mind. He was the entrepreneur behind the Oilerie USA. Concept here is it's designer olive oil. You go into a retail establishment, you can taste different flavorings, you can pour your own bottle and walk away. He had one store of his own, and then he franchised the model last year. He got $3.1 million in revenue, so pretty impressive there. More impressive, though, was his personal story. He talked about his struggles. He talked about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to really develop a company from the ground up, and everything that he had gone through in that story. Clearly impressed the Sharks because of that personal story. But the Sharks just were not willing to invest. They didn't quite see it as enough of a draw to pull them in. Mark Cuban did say, though, that Kurt was no Shark Tank gold digger, meaning that he wasn't coming into the tank simply to gain publicity. And no doubt he'll get some publicity, and I think that that's probably a good thing for him and his business. Now, for the lesson of the night, I would give that to Emergensee. This was a startup that sort of did a souped-up 911 on your mobile device. You hit a button, it starts to record video and audio and tracks your GPS, can send it to authorities or somebody else that you may designate as your emergency contact. Recently started, had only really started on the revenue picture, but these two businessmen, veteran businessmen, had already pumped in more than $3 million of their own money into this to pay for the technology development, to pay for things that they didn't quite know enough about. This is where the problem came in. As Robert said, you know, you spent too much money on your business, and that there is a danger of doing that, that for people who have deep pockets, that they can keep throwing money at something and they don't know if it's working or not. Robert's point, and I think that this is valid and something that every entrepreneur should take away from, is sometimes it's much better to start small, invest what you can, not the maximum amount, but build out your company, see what's happening with your product. Another lesson here is kind of go with where your specialty is. These guys were not we're not specialists in technology, so they had to hire those people. Now, let's get to the deals of the night. I say deals because there were 2 of them that were really interesting. Again, I wouldn't have put my money into it, but still, they walked away with deals, so congratulations to them. First up, Honeyfund. It's kind of like crowdfunding for your honeymoon, a company started by Josh and Sarah Margolis, who came up with the idea when they were funding their own honeymoon. They built it out and now wanted to expand into other verticals for gifts. They also wanted to go into different languages. So far, their initial concept has done well. As an example, last year they did $67 million in transaction fees. Of that, they pulled in nearly $1 million in revenue from that. Now, they did get some shark activity, and Barbara and Robert both made fairly conventional offers, but it was Mr. Wonderful who came in and said, I'm going to give you the $400,000 that you're looking for, and I don't even want any equity from that. What I want is I want you to give me 1/3 of your revenues up until the point that I walk away with $1.2 million. So effectively, Mr. Wonderful was acting like a private banker who charges an awful lot of interest, but at least he's got contacts. You know, he's a shark. He's Mr. Wonderful. So the Margolises went with him, bypassing the other 2 offers. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out and how that develops. But I have to give the deal of the night to Beatbox Wines. This was started by 3 young entrepreneurs in Austin, Texas. They had created this line of flavored alcoholic products. I wouldn't exactly call them wines because they weren't really made with grapes, but in unique flavor combinations. It kind of reminded me of Boone's Farm wines of years ago. They could put 7 bottles into a box that you can take to a party. The box looks like a beatbox, although it doesn't play any music. And it started a bidding war, which I was really surprised by. So first off, they were looking for $200,000 for 10% of the company. Barbara comes in and says, I'll give you $400,000 for 20% of the company. So an exact same valuation that they were looking for. Mr. Wonderful says, I know wines, and he does. He's got his own wine business, and my expertise here is going to cost you. So he said, I'm going to give you $200,000 for 20% of the company. Now, in walks Mark Cuban, and Mark says, look, I think you guys really need to scale up very quickly. You need to get out there. You need to get the word out. You need to do tastings. So I'm going to give you $600,000 for 33% of the company. The entrepreneurs countered back and said, Mark, would you consider giving us $1 million for a third? And Mark Cuban said, I would. So the deal was set. Now think about this for a second, because it doesn't happen all that often on the tank. They came in looking for $200,000. They got a $400,000 offer. They got a $600,000 offer, and they walked away with $1 million. Pretty impressive stuff. That's it. That's the Chum for episode 6. Come back next time and we'll dissect another episode of Shark Tank. Watch The Tank on ABC on Fridays at 9 o'clock. And for a daily fix of entrepreneur news, check out upstartbusinessjournal.com. Thanks.